We're tracking new developments in the disappearance of Taylor Pomaski. Investigators say the spring woman was last seen in April, and today her boyfriend, former NFL player Kevin Ware, who is suspected in her disappearance, was in court on an unrelated charge.
Her ex-boyfriend Kevin Ware was taken into custody a few months later in connection with a drug weapons case. That's the last time we saw him. Besides mugshots until today, his first court appearance since he's been officially charged with Taylor's murder.
On April 25, 2021, a quiet evening in spring, Texas turned into the beginning of one of the most haunting mysteries in recent memory. 30-year-old Taylor Pomaski vanished without a trace after attending a house party. That night, the music faded, conversations slowed, and guests left. But Taylor never came home. Her sudden disappearance was not the type of mystery that starts with silence. It began with chaos. Reports later revealed there had been a heated argument at the party, a confrontation that grew so tense it rattled those in attendance. The argument wasn't between strangers. It was between Taylor and her boyfriend, a man whose name would soon dominate headlines for all the wrong reasons. Former NFL player Kevin Ware Jr. That night, Taylor's voice was silenced. Friends noticed her absence. Calls went unanswered. And when days turned into weeks without a single sign of her, her disappearance quickly transformed from a missing persons case into something far darker, something that would expose hidden truths and violent histories. Taylor Pomaski's story is not just one of a woman gone missing. It is a chilling tale of troubled love, broken trust, and a justice system pushed to its limits in search of answers. Taylor Pomaski, the woman behind the headlines. Before her name was tied to one of Texas's most shocking criminal cases, Taylor Pomaski was simply Taylor. She was a daughter, a sister, a friend, and a woman who radiated kindness to those who knew her best. Born in 1991, she grew up in a family that adored her, and she was known for her bright energy and compassion. Taylor had a way of making people feel seen. Friends described her as supportive and loyal, someone who would stand by you in your hardest times. She wasn't a celebrity, nor was she looking for fame. She was an ordinary woman navigating life, love, and the complexities of adulthood. Like many women in their 30s, Taylor was trying to figure out her path. She had dreams, ambitions, and hopes of building a stable future. But behind the warmth she showed to the outside world, her personal life was becoming more complicated. Her relationship with Kevin Ware Jr. brought both passion and turbulence. It was a romance that looked normal on the surface, but hid deep fractures beneath. The woman behind the headlines was someone vulnerable, someone trying to love but trapped in a storm, far larger than she could control. And that vulnerability would soon become central to understanding the tragedy that followed. The party that changed everything. The night of April the 25th was supposed to be nothing more than a gathering, a party filled with music, laughter, and friends. But as the night unfolded, witnesses described tension building between Taylor and Kevin. The argument grew heated. Voices were raised, eyes turned toward them as the atmosphere shifted from lighthearted to unsettling. For some guests, it was uncomfortable but not surprising. Their relationship was known to have moments of volatility. But few could have imagined this night would be Taylor's last public appearance. As the party wound down, Taylor vanished. She didn't call her parents, didn't message her friends, didn't update her social media. For a woman known to keep in close touch with loved ones, her silence was alarming. What makes this night even more haunting is the uncertainty of what happened after the argument. Some guests recalled seeing her upset. Others weren't sure if she left alone or with Kevin. The lack of clarity created a fog around the timeline, leaving investigators scrambling to piece together the final moments before she disappeared. This was not just a party gone wrong. It was the turning point in a chain of events that would spiral into a nightmare. From concern to panic when Taylor didn't return. At first, Taylor's absence raised concern. Friends tried calling, texting, and checking in, but there was no response. Hours turned into days, and the silence grew deafening. Taylor's parents knew something was wrong. Their daughter would never simply disappear without explanation. She had always stayed connected, always let someone know where she was. When she didn't return home, didn't reach out, and left no trace of activity, alarm bells rang loudly. The family reported her missing, and police began their initial inquiries. Missing person cases often start with the hope that the individual will return, that maybe it was a misunderstanding or a decision to take space. But in Taylor's case, there were immediate red flags. The last known person she was with was Kevin Ware Jr., a man already known to law enforcement. His history wasn't just troubled, it was violent. And when he struggled to give clear answers about her disappearance, suspicion only deepened. What started as concern quickly shifted into panic. This wasn't a woman who walked away from her life. Something darker had happened. A troubled love. Inside her relationship with Kevin Ware Jr. Taylor's relationship with Kevin Ware Jr. was as complicated as it was destructive. On the surface, Kevin was charming. He had once played professional football as a tight end for the San Francisco 49ers and the Washington Redskins. But behind the sportsmanship and fame was a man with a violent streak. Their romance was rocky from the beginning. Friends later admitted they worried about Taylor. The arguments, the intensity, and Kevin's controlling nature painted a disturbing picture. Relationships like this often trap victims in a cycle. Moments of affection followed by volatility. Apologies shadowed by repeated outbursts. Taylor seemed caught in that cycle. She loved, but she also feared. She wanted stability, but she was entangled with a man who thrived on chaos. The night of the party wasn't the first time tensions had flared. It was part of a larger pattern, one that would eventually prove deadly. Red flags and disturbing patterns. The more investigators dug, the clearer it became. There had been warning signs long before Taylor's disappearance. Kevin Ware Jr.'s history wasn't hidden. It was public record. He had multiple prior arrests, including charges related to drug possession, firearm violations, and even violence. His reputation was far from clean, and those close to Taylor knew this. Yet, like many women caught in relationships with volatile partners, she stayed, hoping things would change. Red flags were everywhere. Neighbors reported arguments. Friends saw bruises. Taylor herself confided in some about the struggles she faced. But leaving such relationships is never simple. Fear, manipulation, and the hope for change often cloud judgment. By the time Taylor disappeared, the red flags had turned into flashing sirens. This was not a random disappearance. The disturbing patterns of abuse and control pointed directly toward the man she trusted most. The search expands. Family, friends, and fears. As weeks passed, the search for Taylor intensified. Volunteers, family, and community members joined forces, spreading flyers, posting online, and pleading for information. News outlets picked up the story, and Taylor's face became a reminder of the dangers many women face in silence. Her parents spoke publicly, their voices breaking as they begged for answers. Each day without news was agony. Search teams combed through fields, wooded areas, and neighborhoods. Investigators interviewed guests from the party, trying to piece together a clear timeline. But Taylor's trail had gone cold. The family's greatest fear was becoming reality. Taylor wasn't missing by choice. Something terrible had happened. And suspicion continued to circle back to Kevin Ware Jr. From missing person to homicide investigation. As months passed without a sign of life, investigators reached a grim conclusion. This was no longer a missing person case. It was a homicide investigation. The Harris County Sheriff's Office announced that foul play was suspected. Behind the scenes, evidence was building. Kevin Ware Jr. wasn't just a person of interest. He was the prime suspect. What made matters worse was Kevin's behavior after Taylor's disappearance. Instead of cooperating, he grew evasive. He was arrested on unrelated charges, but even then, questions about Taylor's fate loomed over him. Police believed they were no longer searching for a missing woman. They were searching for a body. Kevin Ware Jr., the dark past of a former NFL player. Kevin Ware Jr. once had the life many dreamed of: fame, fortune, and the chance to play professional football. But his career was short-lived, derailed by personal issues and run-ins with the law. By the time he met Taylor, his NFL days were long behind him. What remained was a man defined not by athleticism, but by violence and crime. Ware's criminal record included multiple arrests, drug charges, and weapons violations. His past painted the picture of someone spiraling out of control, someone prone to aggression. For Taylor, being with him meant walking on eggshells, never knowing when an outburst might turn physical. The tragedy of Taylor's story is inseparable from Kevin's dark past. His history wasn't just a backdrop. It was a foreshadowing of what was to come. A grim discovery: human remains found. In December 2021, the search came to a devastating end. Human remains were discovered in Harris County. After months of waiting, investigators confirmed in April 2022 that the remains were those of Taylor Pomaski. The discovery shattered any lingering hope. Taylor was gone. For her family, the confirmation was both a relief and a heartbreak. They finally had answers, but those answers came at the highest price. The remains confirmed what many had feared from the start. Taylor's disappearance was not voluntary. It was violent. It was final. The legal battle, charges, court, and justice. With the confirmation of Taylor's death, prosecutors moved forward. In July 2022, Kevin Ware Jr. was charged with murder and tampering with a corpse. The legal battle that followed was tense. Kevin maintained his innocence, but the evidence told a different story. The prosecution highlighted his history of violence, his behavior after Taylor's disappearance, and the chilling circumstances surrounding her death. Each court appearance brought renewed pain for Taylor's family, who sat through the proceedings in search of justice. The man who once claimed to love her now stood accused of ending her life in the most brutal way. Aftermath. Lessons from a life cut short. Taylor Pomaski's story is more than a crime. It's a warning. It's a reminder of how quickly love can turn dangerous, how red flags can grow into fatal consequences, and how silence can hide suffering. Her death sparked conversations about domestic violence, about the importance of recognizing signs, and about the systems that must do more to protect vulnerable women. For her family, the pain will never fade. A daughter, a sister, a friend, taken far too soon. Her memory now lives on not in headlines, but in the hearts of those who loved her. And as the trial continues and justice moves forward, one truth remains clear. Taylor Pomaski deserved better. She deserved safety, happiness, and life. Instead, she became the face of one of the most twisted, true crime stories in recent history. A haunting reminder of the darkness that can hide behind closed doors.